The last time Jin-Woo stood at this crossroad, he'd picked the mystery box with a blessing instead of the cursed one. That choice gave him the demon's castle key, which led him to the demon's castle dungeon. Inside, he scored big, leveling up a lot, collecting tons of loot, and saving so much gold that he almost felt like he should treat himself to something special. If given the chance to do it all over again, Jin-Woo wouldn't hesitate to make the same choice. Still, he couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if he'd picked the other path. The blessed mystery box promised to grant his heart's desire, while the cursed one offered something he needed. But now there was another box. What could be inside? It had given me exactly what I wanted in the past. Now Jin-Woo saw his chance to find out. He held his breath as he waited for the system's response. He felt like time was dragging, but then ping. The system finally responded. You have selected item, cursed mystery box. The chosen item will be supplied. At with a soft whoosh, a small box materialized at Jin-Woo's feet. Cool, he exclaimed, though his hands trembled slightly as he picked it up. The weight felt oddly familiar. Could it be His curiosity surged as he tore open the box. Whoa! Jin-Woo's eyes widened in shock at what was inside. Without wasting another second, Jin-Woo hurried straight home after leaving the demon's castle. The first thing Jin-Woo wanted to do was take a long hot shower. He hadn't taken a single bath the whole time he was in the dungeon. Sure, he could have bought water from the shop, but there wasn't really a good chance to do that when monsters were everywhere. It wasn't until he was back in his apartment, relaxing under the warm water, that he finally felt like he'd escaped the dungeon for real. Home sweet home. Jin-Woo put on fresh clothes, tossed a towel over his wet hair, and sat on the edge of his bed, feeling like himself again. Time to get things sorted. He opened up his stat window. A ping. Lettuce popped up in front of him. His eyes landed on something important. Available ability points, 20. These were his rewards for finishing the Demon Souls quest. Without hesitation, he dumped all those points into intelligence. A ping. Here's how his stats looked now. Strength, 1780 stamina, 13.7 agility, 14.7 intelligence, 14.9 perception, 11.10 finally. His intelligence was just a tiny bit higher than most of his other stats. Sure, it was still way behind strength, but this was a major step forward. After ignoring intelligence for so long, it felt great to see it catching up. Everything was coming together perfectly. Every single stat here mattered equally. Jin-Woo had spent so much time focusing on each one at different points that he knew exactly what made each special, and how it could help. But then a thought popped into his head. What if he spread out his increases evenly instead of pouring everything into just one? Imagine being an all-around player, strong in every way. Jin-Woo's eyes lit up with excitement as this bold idea sparked his determination. Jin-Woo thought about it with a smile. All his stats were in great shape, so he could happily think about his next move. Once my intelligence gets ahead of strength, I should slowly boost the others too. With his plan set, Jin-Woo turned to check the skill window. Then he saw it, the third reward. As reward 3, mystery reward. Honestly, Jin-Woo had been way more excited about the first two rewards, item of his choice and 20 bonus points, and hadn't paid much attention to the third one. But now, as he saw what it was, his jaw dropped in shock. Reward 3 has been delivered. As a scroll similar in size to the demon's castle entry permit suddenly appeared in his hand. Jin-Woo stared at it, caught off guard by how it just popped up out of nowhere. He opened it curiously. Azursipi, Elixir of Life. Learn how to craft the Elixir of Life. As Jin-Woo looked at the scroll, his heart pounding as his mind raced. Can I really make this myself? He knew only mage-type hunters could craft items with mana. But now he could too. If he had a recipe, was there anything he couldn't make? The idea left him breathless. What could he create? What's this Elixir of Life thing? Jin-Woo's eyes scanned the details about the item. Elixir of Life. Acquisition difficulty. Axor is a category. Consumable. It was a magical drink that could cure any illness, using super strong magic. You had to gulp down the whole bottle to get the full effect. Wait, it could cure any sickness. Jin-Woo's mind raced to his mom, who'd been stuck in bed for so long. Thanks to Jinyo, he'd already tested how items worked on others, so, if he made this elixir, maybe, just maybe, he could save her. His hands shook with excitement as he held the scroll tightly. The ingredients were pretty simple. First, he needed World Tree fragments. He'd gotten those after defeating Vulcan on the 50th floor of Demon's Castle. Next up was spring water from Echo Forest, which he'd earned after defeating Mitas, a creepy necromancer, on the 75th floor. And finally, purified blood of the demon monarch. That was one ingredient he hadn't found yet. After looking at the first two clues, it wasn't too hard for Jin-Woo to piece together where he might find the demon monarch's blood. He knew he had to aim higher, like way higher. It was probably guarded by the super tough boss at the very top of the demon's castle. If that was true, clearing the whole dungeon would mean collecting all the elixir ingredients in one go. The realization hit Jin-Woo like a thunderbolt. Notoan Furdu's surprised Aon outburst. The mystery box held something truly special. The elixir of life. They said it was the one thing Jin-Woo wanted more than anything else in the world. The chance to see his mother healthy again. Just thinking about it brought tears to his eyes. Then, suddenly, a message popped up with a beep. You can learn the crafting skill using the recipe. Elixir of life. Would you like to acquire the crafting skill? The sound yanked Jin-Woo back to reality in an instant. Jin-Woo knew he had to tackle the demon's castle raid to make the elixir of life. The sooner he got ready, the faster he could head back home. There was no time for feeling emotional. Learn. Suddenly a new craft section popped up in his skills menu, and a message appeared. Sci-Raft consumable. Elixir of life 2 these. The numbers probably meant he already had 2 out of the 3 ingredients. He needed the world tree fragments and the spring water from Echo Forest. Jin-Woo pulled up his inventory and grabbed the item sitting next to the spring water. This creepy necklace was made by stringing together tiny animal skulls. It's called the Sir Demon Monarch's necklace, and it's ranked in terms of how hard it is to get. As an accessory, it boosts your agility and intelligence by 20 points each. If you wear it with the Sir Demon Monarch's earrings says, you unlock some secret bonuses, though we're not told what those are just yet. Jin-Woo got more than just spring water from Mitas, the Guide of Souls. He also received this super weird necklace that looked like something a monster would wear. Why are all these neck accessories so strange? Jin-Woo thought to himself. He couldn't help but compare it to his current warden's collar, which made him grimace. Curious, Jin-Woo held the new necklace up to his neck. Kiyin! A message popped up. Would you like to switch from warden's collar to demon monarch's necklace? Both items gave similar benefits, boosting 2 stats by 20 points each, but something about this creepy new necklace made him hesitate. However, there was something extra special about the demon monarch's necklace. Suddenly Jin-Woo's hand glowed bright red. Change. Tudwoom. A message popped up. You have put on item demon monarch's necklace. The dog collar reappeared in Jin-Woo's hand, and the creepy skull necklace took its place. He quickly shoved it back into his inventory to check out the special bonuses from the full set of demon monarch accessories. Item. Demon monarch's necklace set buff 1. Every stat got a boost of 5. That's what happened with just one of the set buffs. Imagine how awesome it'll be when he unlocks the second buff after completing the entire set. Take the Demon Monarch's ring as an example. Usually these kinds of bonuses are even better once you've collected all the pieces, but getting a +5 to every single stat right away. That's super exciting. And yet, the S-rank accessories were just a small part of the awesome loot Jin-Woo got from Demon's Castle. The real prize, his massive level up. Jin-Woo couldn't help but grin when he saw his new level, 77. That meant he'd leveled up an insane 16 times in just 1 week. This kind of progress was way faster than anything he could have achieved in C-rank dungeons. It was like the game was rewarding him for surviving 7 days in what felt like pure chaos, or maybe even hell itself. Even though they hadn't finished the Demon's Castle dungeon, there was no denying that this had been a successful raid. Jin-Woo couldn't stop staring at the strange item he'd gotten from the cursed mystery box. He held it under the fluorescent light, but instead of shining, the pitch-black key seemed to be sucking up all the light around it. What was this thing even? No info screen popped up. This was a first. He had never seen one like this before. These keys were pretty common. You could even find them in regular mystery boxes sometimes. But this one felt different. Where am I even supposed to use this thing? It might be because it came from that cursed mystery box, but the key just gave off a creepy vibe. Nope. He was stuck with it. After all, Jin-Woo had gone through so much trouble to get the cursed mystery box in the first place. He told himself.
I guess I'll need it someday.
The box was supposed to give him whatever item he needed. Right? Jin-Woo stood up and put the key into his inventory. If he wanted to tackle the Demon's Castle raid, He'd need some solid artifacts. Plus he had a few things to sell. But here's the thing, being an E-rank hunter made buying and selling high-level artifacts super tough. Who wouldn't raise an eyebrow at a low-rank hunter, especially one who's supposedly at rock bottom, trying to sell something super valuable that even high-ranking hunters struggle to get their hands on? He'd run into the same issue when trying to buy stuff. As long as he was stuck with that A-rank label, people would start asking questions about where his money was coming from, and if someone asked him where he planned to use such awesome gear, things could get tricky fast. It was time to stop pretending and finally go for a rank reevaluation. He was determined to be judged based on his real skills. A serious look took over his face. Since I've worked my way up to this point, he thought, I shouldn't let anyone boss me around now. That's what he'd planned all along. Even though it was inconvenient, he stayed as an E-rank to avoid being controlled by those above him. But now, Jin-Woo wasn't afraid of Yun-Ho Baek, the leader of the White Tiger Guild. Nope, he was sure he could stand tall in front of anyone. Not just Baek. There was no reason to hide his real skills anymore. Boom. Boom. His heartbeat felt louder as he thought about finally ditching that E-rank label that had stuck with him for way too long. There was just one thing he needed to check before making his move. Jin-Woo flipped on his hunter phone, his fingers tingling with excitement. A whole week had passed since Jin-Woo last turned on his phone. His phone was blowing up with missed calls and texts, but most of them were from random numbers he didn't recognize. He didn't have time to go through all the messages. If something was really important, they'd call again later. Jin-Woo thought. He gave a mental shrug as he scrolled through his contacts until he found the one he needed. The phone rang with a cheerful tune, and someone picked up after just the first ring. Boss. The voice on the other end boomed. Jin-Woo wondered if he'd been stuck in the dungeon for way too long. Can you believe it? Jin-Woo was thrilled when he heard that familiar voice. He broke into a big smile. How'd it go with your dad? He asked. Awesome, boss, came the reply. Way better than awesome. Jin-Woo couldn't help but feel relieved. He'd been stuck waiting for Jin-Ho to sort things out with his dad before he could take the next step. Now that everything was settled, Jin-Woo was finally free to move forward. No more delays. You could tell by the sound of Jin-Ho's voice that things had gone as planned, but it was still good to hear him say it out loud. Boss, I actually wanted to talk to you about. Beep. Huh. His phone had died and cut off the call. Thinking back, the battery was low even before I entered the demon's castle, so luckily Jin-Woo was glad he'd at least managed to check on the matter he'd called about. Jin-Woo began getting dressed. Since the Hunters Association headquarters was close by, he figured the test wouldn't take long. As he reached the front door, Jin-Woo suddenly remembered his sister and rushed back inside. He quickly left a note on the dining table to let her know he was there. He didn't want her to worry if he disappeared again without a word, especially after being gone for a week. Feeling satisfied, Jin-Woo headed out. As he entered the rank evaluation office, he thought about how long it had been since his last visit. Maybe 4 or 5 years. The time had flown by, and now here he was again. Jin-Woo felt a mix of emotions as he stood at the reception desk. The receptionist didn't even look up when she asked, ID and contact info, please. Jin-Woo had a fuzzy memory of how this was supposed to go, but he'd come prepared. He handed over his ID and phone number without hesitation. The receptionist's eyebrow shot up as she looked at his ID, snapping her out of her boredom. Sir, this is a hunter's license, Jin-Woo said, holding it out. The receptionist looked at him oddly. Yes, Jin-Woo sighed. I want to get reevaluated. The woman tilted her head. Huh? If you're not happy with the evaluation results, that's not something we handle here. No, that's not what I mean. Jin-Woo interrupted. I just need a new assessment. The receptionist furrowed her brow, glancing between him and his license, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Pardon? Wait, hold on, said Jin-Woo, catching his breath as he approached a man who seemed really tense. The employee turned around and walked toward him. Assistant manager, there's a hunter here, asking for a reevaluation. The employee explained. The assistant manager looked up from his desk. Reevaluated. What rank is he right now? He asked, curiously. E rank, replied the employee. The assistant manager leaned back in his chair and glanced at Jin-Woo with a knowing look. This kind of thing happens sometimes, he said. Some hunters just can't accept where they stand, so they come here, hoping for a miracle. He nodded toward Jin-Woo. Looks like this one's no different. We're awake in my ass. He's just jealous because other hunters are making tons of money and getting famous. Now he thinks he's got a shot too. Ugh, as these people can be such a hassle. Just tell him there's a fee for reevaluation and send him off to get an assessment. Yes, sir. The front desk guy headed back to work. Looking relieved now, the assistant manager kept an eye on his employee and Jin-Woo from across the room, shaking his head before turning back to his computer. Jin-Woo's finger hovered over the mouse as he stared at the screen. A name on the hunter's license caught his attention. It sounded familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. He shrugged it off and headed to the evaluation room. Meanwhile, Kisu walked quietly over to the reception desk. Who was that E-rank hunter who just left? He asked the receptionist casually. The receptionist glanced up from her work. Oh, you mean Jin-Woo Sung? Do you know him? Kisu shook his head. No, but there's something about his name. He frowned, trying to remember. Then it clicked. Someone had once asked him to contact them, if Jin-Woo ever showed up. Wait a minute. Kisu muttered under his breath. He quickly pulled out his phone and sent a text. The message was simple. Jin-Woo Sung is here. As he hit send, a smile crept onto his face. This could be interesting. Wait, how did he forget? The assistant manager slipped away to a quiet spot and quickly grabbed his phone. Ryo Ming. This is Yuin Ho Baek. A voice answered. President Baek, it's about that hunter you mentioned earlier, Jin-Woo Sung. The assistant manager said. He's here, but how did you know he'd come? There was a pause on the other end of the line before President Baek asked. Jin-Woo Sung is there. Yes, he just arrived for his reevaluation. The line went silent again, leaving an unsettling stillness in the air before the conversation continued. President Baek's voice came through the phone, sounding more urgent than usual. Could you please delay the reevaluation, even just a little bit? I'm on my way. The assistant manager tilted his head in confusion. But was he hearing things right? The guild master of the super powerful White Tiger Guild sounded nervous. Who would have expected that? But no matter how strange it seemed, the reevaluation process wasn't something Kisoo-jung could control. He scratched his head and replied, He's already at the evaluation building, sir. The Kisoo-jung, the confused assistant manager, ended the call with President Baek. Wait a minute. What's going on here? It was weird enough that an E-rank hunter wanted to get reevaluated, but for the White Tiger Guild master to ask for immediate results. There had to be something special about this guy. After all, why would President Baek care so much? Kisu shook his head. It can't be. Second awakenings were super rare. A few months back, everyone in the association was super excited about what they thought might be a legendary hunter coming back. But turns out it was all just a big mistake. That's pretty much how it always goes with these awakenings. Actually finding one is as rare as spotting a needle in a haystack. More often than not, people just get confused or mishear things, and that's way more common. A lot of hunters have come forward hoping to be reevaluated, but they usually end up leaving with nothing but lighter wallets. It makes you wonder, did the White Tiger Guild really drop the ball this time? But Kisu just couldn't say no to President Baek, especially with their guild ties. I'll be right back, he said quickly. His colleague looked up in surprise. Wait, where are you off to? Kisu explained. Oh, I just remembered something urgent in Building B. He was referring to the building where the mana evaluation room was located. A place the staff often talked about. His colleague nodded. Understanding. Got it. Kisu added. If anything comes up, call me right away, before hurrying off. Despite pushing aside thoughts of something big happening soon, he knew President Baek was probably already on his way. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo found a spot at the end of a bench in the waiting room, settling in patiently. At the moment, 3 others were already there before him. They all looked nervous, and Jin-Woo totally got why. The outcome of today's test would change their lives forever. Jin-Woo remembered feeling the exact same way when he first came here. Sure, being an A rank would be awesome, but honestly, just getting a B rank would be cool too. Or maybe I'm actually an S rank. He once imagined being top tier, so it was a total shock when his evaluation popped out as an E rank. Jin-Woo cracked a smile thinking back to 4 years ago. What's he laughing about? And why is he smiling those of all times? Jin-Woo didn't seem to care as people shot him weird looks. Was he born with nerves of steel or something? Guess the guy just doesn't get nervous. When Jin-Woo didn't react, the others blinked awkwardly and looked away. Nothing's really changed since then though. He'd been through something similar before too. He used to feel nervous around the other hunters. but was also curious about their ranks. Smiling now, he looked around the room. The building was sleek and modern since it had been built less than 10 years ago. It was almost exactly how he remembered it. The only difference now was them. Jin-Woo studied the sharply dressed men and women gathered across from him. The man sitting next to him broke the silence. "I heard they're all guild people," he said. "Guild people?" Jin-Woo asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah. Not many hunters join small guilds, so they come here to sweet-talk awakened beings as soon as they get their results." He jerked his head toward the group. No wonder the air felt icy. The way they were staring at him and the others made Jin-Woo feel like prey surrounded by hungry wolves. "There's a reason you should steer clear of those guilds," the man added quietly. "Why's that?" Jin-Woo asked, genuinely curious. "Small guilds take on super dangerous raids, and a lot of hunters don't make it back. The death rate is pretty high." His tone was serious. Jin-Woo nodded to show he understood. Small guilds were stuck in some kind of weird middle ground. They weren't safe, but they weren't powerful either. Unlike elite hunter teams, smaller guilds weren't thrilled about tackling low-level dungeons, but their hunters just weren't strong enough to handle tougher missions. Because of this, things often went sideways. That's why finding new members was super important to them. They'd even started setting up camp in the Hunter Association building, waiting to snatch up fresh faces as soon as they arrived. "Oh," the bald man said, wiping sweat from his head with a handkerchief before hesitantly offering Jin-Woo a handshake. "Hey, since our fates brought us here together, we should probably introduce ourselves," Jung-Hoon said with a smile. "I'm Jung-Hoon Jung. I'm Jin-Woo Sung," the other boy replied, his voice calm but curious. After that quick chat, they both went back to waiting their turns. The room was quiet, except for the occasional sound of someone shifting in their seat. The open space made it easy to see everyone's reactions, those who had finished the test, and the staff members helping out. Next, a voice called out, breaking the silence. The guy who had just finished looked pretty down. I bet he was ranked D or E. The guild members didn't even give him a second glance as he walked by. They were totally honest about it. Which made me wonder, was there another way to get assessed? Yes. Someone called out. Another hunter came up. And let's just say they weren't happy with their result either. One of them headed toward the exit with heavy boots making a loud thud. But honestly, high-ranking hunters aren't exactly common. If they were, they wouldn't get paid so much. For most people, becoming even a C-rank hunter is like hitting the jackpot. They could rake in the cash by joining an elite squad, and if lucky, might even land a spot in a big guild. Imagine even a top guild like the White Tiger Guild had 4 C-rank recruits in their latest batch. Joining a big guild could mean earning almost as much as doctors or lawyers. Jang-Hoon turned to him again and said, "If you join a big guild, they give you a huge signing bonus, right?" The hand holding his handkerchief shook slightly. "I have some debt," he admitted quietly. "Honestly, this situation has made it so hard for me to live with my daughter," Jung-Hoon muttered, then suddenly looked up in surprise and bowed his head apologetically at Jin-Woo. "Oh no, I can't believe I just spilled all that to someone I just met. I'm such a nuisance. I always talk too much when I'm nervous." Jin-Woo smiled kindly and bowed back. "Don't worry about it," he said. Jung-Hoon was clearly on edge, taking slow, deep breaths to calm himself. Another awakened being walked out of the evaluation room, and then a voice called out, "Next person, please." It was Jung-Hoon's turn now.